Born and raised in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, LUIZ moved to the United States in 1990, where he began his journey in Spiritism. He has been lecturing on Spiritism, both in Portuguese and English, enriching the teachings in Spiritism with his vast knowledge of science. He participates in local and national seminars all year round.
Before I even greet you, I wanted to say something. The Spiritist message is supposed to be heard by anyone and everyone. There is no restriction. Everybody is supposed to be listening to it. You are here hearing what we are all saying. Our friends on the internet are hearing the message. But how about those who are hard of hearing and deaf? Aren't those entitled as well? They are, right? They use a different language. They don't use English. They use something called ASL, stands for American Sign Language. So I want to greet you in American Sign Language. Good afternoon. Okay? All right, so thank you. Actually, it's in our hearts and in our minds to start doing something Spiritist, videos in Spiritism in ASL, in American Sign Language, so we can get the message across to these people. That's why we're bringing this to you. Hopefully we're going to have support from everybody. Okay, self-awareness and inner transformation. They kind of go together, right? One comes after the other. First, you are aware of the need for a transformation, then you transform yourself. Is that easy? No, it's not. Within the time that we have here, we're going to pick up some points, only 4 points that we're going to discuss, 4 little things, 4 little ideas. These 4 ideas were already spoken in a way or another today, so that makes it easy. My job is a little bit easier, so I don't have to explain too much on certain things. And here's idea number 1, reincarnation. We spoke about this several times today. Several of our friends spoke about it. And one of our friends, Daniel Assisi, was just on the stage a few minutes ago. He mentioned this particular question in the Spirits book, question 132, in which Allan Kardec asks the spirits, the highly evolved spirits, what is the purpose of the incarnation? And like he said, and I'm going to use the same thing, it's an answer that comes in 2 parts. The first part is the standard answer that we all know, and the idea of reincarnation is so we can progress and get to perfection. But the second part of the answer, which he also caught our attention, says, and I'm going to read it with you so we understand exactly what it means. Incarnation also has a further objective, which is to place spirits in conditions where they can do their share in the work of creation. Okay. One day, my work in creation is going to be to create a planet, to govern a planet, like all of you, right? To create galaxies. Now, for me to get to that point, I need to do some changes. I need to be a Jesus-like figure, at least, to say the least. So I need to get rid of certain things, my intolerance, my impatience, my envy, my jealousy, and the list goes on and on and on. That is what it means. We are placed in conditions that will allow us to work on these things, on all these envies and all these vices that we have. That's what this means. And easily, it's not going to be. We're going to have to go through a lot of pain. More or less, depending on the person, but we will have to deal with the pain. And the first kind of trouble that we have with the pain, we're talking about moral pain. The first trouble that we have is we kind of don't understand exactly what it's for at times. It's very easy to revolt. Actually, Spirit Emmanuel tells us revolt is the same as incomprehension. They're synonyms. Incomprehension. We're not comprehending something, so we revolt, okay? But we need to understand the meaning of pain. So let's start easily. think about physical pain. So I hit my arm and I break my arm. If it didn't hurt anything at all, nothing at all, I would just keep working and doing things with my arm, and you would, break more parts, and to a point where you would dismantle the entire thing. That's what pain is for. A pain is an alert signal saying you got to stop because something happened. Stop, and then let's work on it. That's what the physical pain is for. The human body is wired with that purpose. So physical pain is kind of easy to understand. Medicine understands it very well. Now, moral pain is the same. It has the same concept. It's an alert. Something that I'm not doing right came up, and I'm having to go through that. And depending on how I take this pain, if I insist, like my arm, if it breaks and I insist, it's going to be a lot worse. When I have to go through one of these moral pains and I insist on not paying attention, I'm going to suffer by choice, not by design, by choice. So pain has a meaning. What is the meaning of the moral pain? If we go back in reincarnation that we just saw, we just talked about it, for me to be able to do my part on creation, I have to clean myself, morally speaking. So all the wrongdoings that come from the past have to be offset one way or another. When I offset these, if I could put a collection together of all the wrongdoings that I still have to offset, if I could make a list of all of them, it would be something tremendously long, very long. We wouldn't be able to say, on my next life, I want to offset each and every single one of them. I wouldn't be able to do it because there's too much wrongdoing, there's too much pain that I'm in because of my wrongdoings that I can't get rid of that in one incarnation. So I need several incarnations to discharge this pain. I need several physical bodies. One physical body doesn't let me discharge all of that. I need several of them. So I need several lives. So pain and reincarnation, they go together. They need to be together. Every incarnation is a little bit of my pain. Our pain is being financed by the divine bank. It's being financed. When you go to buy a car, okay, you go to a bank, for example, you tell the manager, I need $20,000 because I want to get a car. Okay, you get the $20,000 and you're going to pay this in installments. So when the paying booklet comes into your house and you're going to pay the first installment, you're happy about it. You pay happily because you got a brand new car. You don't complain. You don't go to the manager and tell him, this is wrong. What you're doing to me, it's wrong. But we do this up there. Our moral pain is being financed, and we are complaining about it. It's absurd if you think about it, if you think about the concept. And if you go to the bank, right, try not to pay one of these bills. Try to skip a particular month. There's more trouble on the way. We don't have to do this for offsets of moral pains. When we asked the divine bank, how do I pay this? The answer from God was, here, son, you go as you can. You pay as you can. You have free will. We'll leave it up to you. We're not forcing you to do anything. Even that, God's mercy. And we complain. So we have this to work with, and we don't know how to work with. Instead of paying our debts, offsetting the whole thing as we can, at each life it seems like we acquire more debts. And obviously, the next life, I had to pay what I had left before plus my new purchases. And it becomes complicated. But we can't complain. We do not have the right to complain. Our pain is being financed through several lifetimes, several reincarnations. Pain and reincarnation come together. Pain leads to something else that we call the enemies. Okay? In American Sign Language, enemies. Okay, enemies like that. What are these enemies? So here's Joe, my friend, that one day he showed up in the parking lot with the most beautiful and nicest car available at the time. And I couldn't get it, and I got jealous. And I didn't take that well. So naturally, I became like not so much of a close friend, and then, we just drift apart. And for me, Joe is my enemy. He's on my blacklist. He might not even know, but he's on my blacklist. And so is Carlos, and so is Mary, and so is Joanna, and so is whatever name you want to use. If I were to give you a task of write down right now a list of all your enemies, but you only have 5 seconds, most of you would complain. Can't do it in 5 seconds. Because the list is too long, and we know it. We know. So it's complicated to deal with these enemies. And why is it so complicated? Because we don't grasp the idea behind it. You see, when John gets his car, brand new car, latest and the greatest, and I look at the car and I can't have it, it's like Susanna said in the morning, that's not John. That's not the car. That's envy. So I introduce you to the enemies. These are some of them. These are the enemies. Our vices, pride, selfishness, resentment, hatred, intolerance, impatience, envy, revenge, whatever vices. These are the enemies. These are the ones stopping me from advancing. What is an enemy? It's somebody that stops me from advancing. That's what an enemy is. I cannot advance because I have an enemy by the name envy. And I have another one by the name of dishonesty, and another one by the name of pride, and so it goes like that. They are preventing me from going ahead. So with this new paradigm where the enemy is not the person, the enemy is within, with this new paradigm, what do these people mean? If they are not the enemies, what are they? That's the trick. They are the battlefield. In American Sign Language, battlefield. Okay? They are the battlefield. They are the places I go to defeat the enemy. If I need to defeat my envy, who's the best battlefield? John. He's the one. He's the one. I envy his car since 1985 or something, whatever. He is the place I need to go to win over the enemy. He is not the enemy. He's just the battlefield. He's the point of contact between me and the enemy. Now, think about this. If I avoid John and Carlos and Mary and everybody on my list, if I avoid these people, what am I doing? When you don't show up against your enemy, automatically your enemy wins. Automatically. And you lose. We go home, in a way, and we just lost the game because we didn't show up. So, John, no, I don't like this guy. No. John is going to be there, so I'm sorry, but I can't go. I have something else. And we go like this. Same for every person that we consider enemy. They are not enemies. They are battlefields that allow me to go there and win over the enemy. One day, I'm going to go to the battlefield, and the enemy is not going to show up. That day, I won. One day, I'm going to see John, and envy is not going to be there. He's going to be my greatest friend. I have a personal example I can tell you, life proof of it. And it does work, I'm telling you, because I'm life proof of it. I had a certain type of activity with a group of people, 5, 6 people. And, in doing the activities, one day, the guys called me and said, we didn't like what you did. You did this and this, we didn't like it. So one of them organized the rest of the group to talk to me. He was kind of verbalizing the situation. So I was fuming. That was like 20 years ago. And I was, this guy is on top of the blacklist. He made it to the top of the blacklist in 5 minutes. And then, the thing was on my mind. Oh, that guy, we did so much together, that guy. But the problem is, the places he had to be physically present were the same places I had to be physically present at times, not always, but at times. That was creating a deep trouble for me because it was hard to deal with that. So one day, something clicked in here, and I said, oh, hold on. I've been suffering all of this. He might not even know that he's my enemy. He might not even know. So I'm going to change this myself. So I put a strategy, really a strategy. And this is what my strategy is. I'm going to look at this schedule for this guy so I can see where he is and when, okay? And I'm going to start going to the same places, but I have to go slowly and carefully so it works. Okay, so this is what I did, and this is a true thing. He was going to a certain place on a certain day. I went to that place, so that was my battle number one. I was going to go to the place, look at him, not allowing him to look at me, and I was going to leave, and that's what I did. Okay, second day, here's a strategy. I'm going to look at him, I want him to look at me, then I'm going to leave. That's what I did. Third day, I'm going to look at him. When he looks at me, I'm going to do a sign. Hey, that's what I did. It works. Day number 4, like a tap over here. Hey, how's it going? Day number 5, hey, guy, great to see you here. We're the best friends today. It's a strategy. I went to the battlefield 6 times to win over. But I went to the battlefield. I was losing the battle every time I avoided him, talking to him, looking at him, being on the same place. We got to go to the battlefield. And we are going to win. And I did. So we're great friends today. It's a matter of understanding. It's a shift in the paradigm. They are not the enemies. They are the opportunity to win the enemy. So thank God for them in our lives. Okay, that was said in the morning as well. And the point number 4 that I want to make, I want to bring it to you, dualities. Instead of explaining dualities and give you concepts and nice words, no. Let's go by example. Life and death. This is a duality. For example, regardless of a belief system, if you're alive, you're not dead. If you're dead, you're not alive. But one does not exist without the other. Heaven and hell, regardless of belief system. If you're in heaven, you're not in hell. If you're in hell, you're not in heaven, but one does not exist without the other. These are called dualities. So dualities are things that are opposite sides, and they are extreme different choices. How does it work for us? Let's bring the idea into Spiritism. So let's go back, let's take me, for example. Let's go back several lifetimes ago when I was a great criminal. And then, one life after that, I was less of a criminal, then less of a criminal. Then last incarnation, I only stole 2 things, 2 little items. And then I said, my next incarnation, which is this one, I'm not going to steal anything. Honesty is going to be the thing. I'm going to be as honest as anybody can be. So here I am. So let's say that suddenly I go to a party full of people, let's say 200 people in a party, and somebody puts a pile of $10 bills like this size, making $1 million, and everybody leaves and there's no surveillance cameras. And you leave me in there looking at that. I can look at this and say, oh my God, money, wow. If I take only 50 of those bills, it's not going to make any difference on the pile. Nobody's going to notice. And you see the conflict going? Should I do it? Should I not do it? And nobody's looking. There's no camera. Oh my God, what a great opportunity. You see, if I'm doing this, I have not yet transcended the duality, dishonesty, honesty. I have not transcended. Because if I had transcended that duality, my attitude was going to be something like this. Wow, somebody forgot a ton of money here. We got to look for the owner. They should be desperate looking for this money. When I get to this point, I transcended the duality, dishonesty, honesty. It doesn't even occur to me. It doesn't even cross my mind that dishonesty was something possible. Here's another one. Let's say several lifetimes ago, I was a tremendous drunk guy. And I drank everything that was possible, and I keep drinking less and less and less. So my last lifetime, I said, on the next one, which is this, no alcohol, period. So here I come. Everything's going well. I'm invited to a party. Julio puts in here, right, the most desired bottle of whiskey and the most expensive bottle of whiskey in the planet. He puts in here, everybody leaves. No surveillance cameras. And I'm going to look at this and go, oh my God. Oh, should I could just do this. Oh my God. This is fantastic. I'm in heaven. This is the most desired, the most expensive bottle of whiskey in the planet. If I'm going through this, if I'm going through the conflict, I have not yet transcended the duality, alcoholism, sobriety. Because if I had transcended that duality, my attitude would be something like this. Wow, this is the most desired, most expensive bottle of whiskey in the planet. I have some friends in this party. If they see this is going to be a total disaster, let me put this away. Then I would have transcended the duality, alcoholism, sobriety. It didn't even occur to me to do something with this for myself. So what happens when we go along working with these dualities and killing them? Winning over the enemy. Because you see, honesty and dishonesty. Dishonesty is the enemy. One day I want to win him over. When I win, okay, and dishonesty is no longer a possibility, this is no longer a duality because I don't have two sides anymore. This is called the truth. This is the truth. Know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Free from what? From the conflict, from the duality, from the should I do, should I not do. Honesty is honesty. Sobriety is sobriety. Tolerance is tolerance. You don't need the intolerance. You don't need the impatience. You don't need the vice side of the duality. We only need the virtue side of the duality. But that's another problem because very often we seek for people who have virtues that we don't. For example, I go to a place and I look at people, I look at all of you, and I'm going to say, oh, I'm going to sit there because that person, I love that person. He's so calm, he's so patient. And I go there, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But why is it telling me I don't have that in me? I'm seeking for that virtue still. I still have to deal with the duality, patient, impatience. And that person might help me. You see, by going there and sitting by his side, her side, is not going to make me patient. It's not going to fix the duality. I can use that as a reference. Okay? We have the biggest reference of all, Jesus Christ. He's the biggest reference I can look at. But just by reading the gospel, even by being physically with him, you wouldn't have fixed it. Because it's internal work. It's the inner transformation. I can use him, her, or whoever as a model, but that doesn't change me. Seeking virtues in other people should be used as a reference, not as an endpoint. Oh yeah, now I'm patient. Now I'm tolerant. No, that's not going to happen. That's not what it is. And the third idea about dualities is how do I completely dismantle these dualities? So I spoke about two here, dishonesty, honesty, alcoholism, sobriety. How do I dismantle that? So I want to bring you an idea, which I do very often. I want you to think about the sun. We're going to use something that's in the physical world because we have a little bit more, it's easier for us to think about it, so we're going to use an analogy. Although we don't put our hands on the sun, but it's something physical that we can look out and see it. So think about the sun. You don't have to answer, okay? But I'll give you time to think. 10 seconds. What time, and I'm going to count in ASL, American Sign Language. What time is night at the sun? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What time is night at the sun? Answer, it's never night at the sun. Hopefully everybody agrees. It's never night in the sun. So the next question is, why not? Why not? We know it's never night at the sun. Why not? The best answer that I could come up with is because the sun is the source of all light. Not some light, not a couple of rays. The sun is the source of all light. When am I going to be in peace? When I am the source of all peace. Not when two guys in suits sit in a palace and sign a bunch of papers, because we have done that 10,000 times in history and it didn't work. When am I going to be tolerant? When I am the source of all tolerance. When am I going to be patient? When I am the source of all patience. I have to be the son of all things. That's the goal. That's the inner transformation. Inner transformation is start working on all these dualities, vices on one side, corresponding virtues on the other side, and dismantle them, being the source of the virtue. When I am the source of all honesty, dishonesty is not even, you can take that word out of the vocabulary because it doesn't make sense to me. So we can think about the sun as a reference, being the source of all things. That's what we should be doing, seeking to be the source of all things. There's this fantastic book. Unfortunately, it's not translated in English yet. In a loose translation, we could call this the sun in our souls. There's one phrase, just one phrase, that's worth this whole 30 minutes of talk here. The phrase is this: without temptation, impossible the task of perfection. Without temptation. What is the temptation? Is being placed in a situation, remember, second part of the answer to the purpose of incarnation, being placed in situations where I have to make a choice, and I'm being presented with both possibilities. And if I still see the second possibility, I haven't transcended that duality yet. When I have transcended the duality, there's no duality, there's only truth. And that sets me free. That's the only thing that sets me free, truth. Know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So without temptation, there's no task of perfection. Without temptation, there's no task of perfection impossible, because I have to destroy all these dualities. And the only way to destroy is going to the battlefield. I have to set an appointment with my enemy, which are my vices, in the battlefields. So let's say that I decide, I consider myself to be pretty, impatient. And I'm going to work on this seriously. Okay, who is the person that I can't stand? When he's 10 miles away, I feel it. Who is that person? What's his name? John? Okay. John is not the name, it's the nickname. The name is impatience. The name is intolerance. Mary is the nickname. So what is the nickname that's going to allow me to work and win over? I want to go to the battlefield. That's something we can do. And I'm telling you, I'm living proof of it. It works. We just have to put a strategy. Now, on this strategy, there's one thing we need to be very careful about. Let's say, for example, that I don't like the person. The example that I gave was because he got the car. Okay, so let's say that I'm going to go back and work with this. So what was my first approach? Remember, I go and look at the person and leave. He's not going to see me. So, you see, there's no sense in going, oh, here he is. Yeah, but the car is out there still in the parking lot because I saw it. That's not it. The strategy is being applied wrongly. I can't go in there to emphasize the problem. I have to go in and say, oh, he's in a party. He's drinking some Coke and eating some chips. Oh, yeah, it's a human body. He needs to feed himself. And I leave. Don't feed the enemy. I still need to go to the battleground, not to feed the enemy, to win over the enemy. And I'm going to win, one at a time. It's possible. Try and you see. Battlefields, that's what they are. Battlefields, enemies. Okay? Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day here.
Thank you, Mr. Lima. That's a lot of food for thought, I tell you that. And how can we talk about spiritual evolution without talking about love? Well, we're about to find out with our next speaker, Edward Christie. Love, the driving force of the universe. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, Edward has been involved with Spiritism for more than 20 years and is an active member of Inner Enlightenment Spiritist Society in New York. Edward is also a classical trained pianist and has given lectures and talks about Spiritism and music around the country. Edward is the president of Fraternity Without Borders US, a nonprofit organization that has projects helping children and their families in Brazil, Madagascar, Mozambique, and Senegal. Edward?
Unlike LUIZ, I don't sign. So I hope that's not a big disappointment. Actually, I've been studying Portuguese for over 20 years, and I think at my memorial service, they're going to say, he never really did get it. But the Buddhist teacher, Jack Kornfield, said, if you can sit quietly after difficult news, if in financial downturns you can remain perfectly calm, if you can see your neighbors travel to fantastic places without a twinge of jealousy, if you can happily eat whatever's put on your plate, if you can fall asleep after a day of running around without a drink or a pill, if you can always find contentment just where you are probably a dog. As far as we can tell, dogs are happy to be just what they are. Dogs don't look for meaning or ask questions or wonder, what am I doing here? When we humans look at ourselves, we're restless. We ask why, look for meaning, and wonder, what am I doing here? One reason Jack Kornfield's observation is amusing is because we share a lot of similarities with dogs. Dogs have feelings and affections and can give up their lives to save their offspring. We can call these a kind of primitive love. But human nature is capable of more than instincts and affections. Unlike dogs, we can make real, life-altering choices. No eggplant, elephant, or electron strives to be better than it is. Human beings are a work in progress. In his book, Life and Destiny, the Spiritist philosopher Leon Denis writes, all the powers of the soul can be confined to 3 words: to will, to know, and to love. Let me repeat that. All the powers of the soul can be confined to 3 words: to will, to know, and to love. The power to will is given to our conscience. Our conscience guides our actions, telling us to do what's right and avoid doing what's wrong. The power to know is given to our mind. Our mind searches for what's true and what's false, what to believe and what to doubt. The power to love is given to our heart. Our heart awakens us to our inner self, our innermost self, the self that's more than our thoughts and beliefs and choices. With these 3 powers, we have the means to become something more than we are today. We can choose right action, search for truth, and awaken to the deep reserve of love that's in each of us. Earth is our home, but we're not entirely at home on Earth. Earth is less a home and more like a hotel, a place we stay a while. Imagine yourself on a journey, stopping at a hotel and loving the hotel so much that you give up on your destination and decide not to leave. The hotel's good and provides for your needs. I happen to be partial to jacuzzis, but you didn't travel to end up in a hotel. While you're lying by the hotel pool and thinking about your destination, you're living with the contradiction between having real satisfaction while you're surrounded by things that only give temporary pleasure. Yet, having real satisfaction doesn't mean giving up temporary pleasures. We're meant to use the good things in this life with simplicity and gratitude. If we're afraid to get pleasure from the good things in life, we'll live a negative life. Instead of finding value in the world, we spend our time knocking down evil, focusing on what's wrong, watching for temptation at every turn. There's nothing wrong with this, but if all we do is avoid the bad, we'll miss the good. We're made from a loving God, and this love calls us to a positive, creative, and evolving life. Worldly things are good because they come from a good God. Our challenge is to find a way to value them without making them the ultimate pleasure in life. We can see them as St. Francis did when he looked up at the stars and said, "If these are the creatures, what must the Creator be like?" In John's epistle we read, "Whoever does not know love does not know God, because God is love." This love is a force that gives order to the entire universe, and everything is moving toward it. It's not a mechanical force like gravity that affects two bodies, but a will that draws us to it with tenderness and mercy. Divine love attracts our innermost self, our heart, and this attraction we call love. Coming to terms with the will of God takes time. We're made to love, we're drawn to love, and yet we spend most of our lives trying to satisfy our own will and get our own way. When our will conflicts with God's, things get difficult for us. Someone close to us dies. We have to live with an illness, or we lose a job, and we don't want to accept that things didn't turn out the way we planned. We grumbled it. Life is unfair, and the cards are stacked against us. The game is rigged, and there's no way to win. In the end, we'll have to say, "Thy will be done." Don't call this resignation. Call this defeat. We give up because in the battle of the wills, we lost. We say we can't know God's will, and it hardly matters. In the end, we're going to lose. But it is possible to discover God's will. God is love, and God's will cannot be contrary to love. God wills us to share in his great work of love. Instead of standing by helplessly while God pulls the strings, finding our part in this great work of love gives us something positive to do. This attitude makes all the difference. Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl wrote, "What in the end remains is the last of human freedoms, the ability to choose one's attitude in a given set of circumstances." Love is not just an emotion, it's an inner attitude, a conscious act of the will that harmonizes our will with the divine will. When we conform our will to a will that's only love, we collaborate in a work of love. We act true to our nature, freely and consciously, and face whatever comes with a trust in God's loving will. St. Francis found this inner attitude, but it took him some time. As a young man, Francis wanted to be a knight. It's true. Our president always says it's true, but this time it's really true. He wanted to be a knight. Knights are brave and loyal, and they risk death and treat their own with courtesy and loyalty. Francis wanted to carry an axe and a sword and achieve glory by defending his hometown of Assisi. When he was 20 years old, he went off to battle with the neighboring city of Perugia. He never made it there. On the way, he was taken prisoner and thrown into a polluted church basement. He spent a year in that prison and another year in bed recovering from malaria. He still wanted to be a knight. So when he was strong enough, he set off to battle in a war with Apulio. He never made it there. On the way, he spiked a fever, and lying in bed, he heard a voice telling him to go home. There he would be told what to do. He'd become a knight, but not the kind of knight he imagined. 12 years later, after turning his life around and becoming the Francis we know, he goes off to war again to fight in the Fifth Crusade. At this time, it was not to raise a sword to Muslim enemies, but as a peacemaker, bearing a gift of a message of reconciliation. He entered the enemy camp unarmed and, like a knight, bravely risked his life for a cause, the cause of peace. The Sultan, who was sworn to kill any Christian he met, welcomed Francis as a friend. Francis thought that to achieve glory, he would have to raise weapons against an enemy. Once he stopped being preoccupied with his will and his dream, he was guided to be a true knight, a person of courtesy, bravery, and ideals. He placed his trust in God's will, and God made Francis over from the inside. God's will became his will. God's love, his love. Francis still had his character. He still wanted to be a knight, but he no longer took his identity or found his identity in his dream. He found his identity in something that was true and lasting. He found his place in God's work of love. Unlike Francis, we're more like the mountain climber who had almost reached the top of the mountain when he slipped and fell. Hanging over the edge of the cliff, he said, "Help! Is there anybody up there?" A loud, deep voice answers, "This is God. Let go, I'll catch you." The climber thinks for a minute and says, "Is there anybody else up there?" One reason we don't see God's will clearly is that it's easy for us to understand law and not so easy for us to understand love. So we tend to let our actions be guided by the law rather than by love. Because with law, we know exactly what's expected of us. If we get caught breaking the law, the consequences are spelled out. If we fail to love, the consequences are not always clear. In the justice of the divine government, the wrongs we do when we fail to love don't result in external consequences. Our wrongs don't harm God's love. Instead, the harm from the wrongs we do happen inside us. Even when our wrongs hurt others, which somehow they always do, we're the first victims of our own wrongdoing. Wrongs harden our heart, blind us to goodness, and bind us to a disordered love that brings more suffering. It usually takes some event, some loss, some humiliation for us to awaken to the full meaning of our failure to love. And when this happens, our heart fills with sorrow. Sorrow for the hardness of our heart. Sorrow for the suffering that we bring to others. Suffering pulls back the veil and reveals the obstacles that separate us from love. Sorrow shows that wrongdoing made a place so dark that we couldn't see love. But a sorrowful heart can pray, "God, I'm lost. Please help me." This is a prayer for divine mercy. Mercy shines a light on the love that's hidden by a hard heart. Mercy reveals God's power to bring good out of the wrong we've done. Mercy embraces sorrow, and we come to understand that we too can be merciful. Mercy moves us to bring good out of the wrong we've done. And if our heart isn't soft enough to make amends in this life, it means we're asking for a chance to soften our hearts in another. Divine love doesn't depend on anything we did or do or will do. We're loved if we cooperate with love, and we're loved if we act contrary to it. We're loved when we're good, and we're loved when we fail in goodness. In Matthew's Gospel we read, God's sun rises on the good and the evil, and God sends rain on the just and the unjust. Divine love doesn't need for us to be good. Divine love doesn't depend on our performance. It's not conditional on our actions. God doesn't ask for anything that's beyond our strength. No matter how many times we fall, no matter how many times we fail to love, divine mercy is there to catch us, waiting for a sorrowful heart, ready to be renewed by God's mercy. In his letter to the Romans, St. Paul writes, "For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither fears for the day or worries about tomorrow, not all the powers of the world can separate us from God's love." When our heart is touched by divine mercy, we're awake to the truth that we're never separate from God's love. God cares for the inherent goodness in things. All created things are good, and so divine love treats every created thing with care. The evangelist Luke wrote, 5 sparrows are sold for 2 pennies, yet God does not forget a single one of them. There's not a creature so small that God doesn't lovingly care for it and provide it with all it needs. If we treat created things with indifference, carelessness, or violence, we've harmed the good. If we're sad because we hear someone praise the good in another, we're unjust to the good. If we use words to blacken someone's reputation, we've cursed the good. If we say someone is irrational, ignorant, or unlovable, nothing we say can take away the person's human gifts of reason, intelligence, and the capacity to love. We've done nothing but harden our heart to the good. We tend to be on the lookout for faults, and this makes it hard to see the good. We hope eliminating faults will create a better world, and this is true. But when we think that progress in the world is slow, we can be sad. But St. Thomas Aquinas has a happier way to look at the world. To be pleased with the good, always, everywhere, and in every creature. Think for a moment about living in a world where this is our attitude. To be pleased with the good, always, everywhere, and in every creature. This way, the better world we want is already here. To be pleased with the good doesn't mean to ignore faults. It means to put faults in perspective. When faults are out of perspective, we can go on and on talking about them. And with every word that underlines a fault, we move farther and farther from the good we hope to bring about. When we're pleased with the good, we put faults in perspective. Objectively, meaning if we leave our opinion of faults on the side, faults are small in comparison to the enormous amount of good that's in every creature. Faults are blemishes on the good, but they don't take away the good. A house with peeling paint and a broken window is blemished, but for all that, it's still a house. If we can't remove the blemishes, the house still has value. Its purpose is unchanged, and its usefulness is unharmed. Virtue starts with seeing the good. Before we can be patient, generous, compassionate, and merciful, our heart is pleased with the good. Being pleased with the good makes it easier to love. We're feeling that we have to eliminate faults in order to get to the good creates obstacles. To be human is to have faults. To be human is also to be blessed with a tremendous amount of good. To love the good, if we fix our attention, if we fix our attention on what's wrong with the world, the good goes out of focus. If we point our lens at the good, faults are no longer the subject of the picture, but only a small part of it. We live a simple, heartfelt life, one where love can make a home, even if that home has peeling paint and a broken window. Love's home is in our heart, and the home we make for love depends on what we value. We value what we love, and we love what we value. As Christians, we aim to value what Jesus values. In his letter to the Philippians, St. Paul said, "The attitude you should have is the one Christ Jesus had." Jesus' attitude shows us what it means to be fully human, what it means to live a human life. Jesus valued the inherent goodness in creation. He valued the sinner. He valued the weak. He valued the adulterer. He valued the criminal. He valued the outcast. He valued the poor. He valued the sick. He took care of the good he found in the world. Wherever there was good, he found it, valued it, and loved it. Jesus' ministry didn't aim to teach us the finer points of religious law. His justice wasn't concerned with codes of proper behavior. He didn't moralize when someone failed to live up to an ideal. Jesus taught that people are more important than law, and that law exists for people, and that people didn't exist to obey the law. And he valued people by respecting their limits. He didn't condemn them for their frailties. He accepted what they could do. His closest associates barely understood him, and yet he loved them just the same. He looked straight into their heart, their deepest, innermost self, and there he found love and true value. Jesus loves God. He loves the value in the created world, a value that was placed there by a loving God. Jesus loves his neighbor. He loves the good in people, the good that cannot be destroyed by human weaknesses and frailties. Jesus' will and God's will are united. He trusts that in every moment, in ways that are not always clear, God's will is a living presence, a source of infinite love that promises that at the end of each story, a greater good will come about. We've heard a lot of statements about God and his goodness and love, but love is more than words and thoughts. One way to awaken to love is to get in touch with our neighbor. We're human, and we learn a great deal from other humans. God speaks to us through our neighbor. With them, we find out that love is a lot more than words and ideas. So I'm inviting you now to a practice that will get you in touch with your neighbor. The intent of this practice is to develop compassion and awaken in us the deep reserve of love. This is a standing practice, and what I'd ask you to do is, as quietly as possible and without saying anything, please stand up now. You'll need a partner for this practice, so turn to someone who's next to you. You don't have to say anything to this person. Just find a partner. Your partner could be someone that you know, or it can be someone you're meeting the first time. Face your partner and find a relaxing way to stand. This practice will take a few minutes, so find a position that's comfortable. Let yourself be quiet. Take a breath or two. Relax any tension you carry. As you face your partner, look into their eyes. This isn't something you normally do, so you may feel uneasy. Take a breath, and if you feel the urge to laugh or look away, be patient with yourself. Take your time. Be kind to yourself. When you can, come back to your partner's eyes. The opportunity for you to be with this person is given to you now. As you look at your partner's eyes, become aware of the beautiful spirit behind those eyes. Their original goodness and innocence. The value they bring into the world. Behind those eyes are gifts and strengths and great potential. See the goodness and value that's just behind those eyes. As you see the beauty in the spirit of your partner, sense the gifts that are there. Observe the immense amount of reserves of courage, intelligence, patience, endurance, generosity, and mercy. Recognize the inherent value in your partner. See the original goodness that has been placed there. What you're experiencing now is the love and tenderness that's there in each of us. The love and tenderness that we were created from. Take a breath and move from those thoughts and look more deeply into your partner's eyes. As you look more deeply, become aware of the amount of sorrow behind those eyes. See the pains and struggles that this person has accumulated in this life, as in all human life. Pains that you can only guess at. Their disappointments and failures, losses and loneliness, hurts and sorrows. Open your heart to the hurts that he or she may never have told another person. The hurt locked deep in their heart. You can't fix the pain, but you can bear the pain with courage and tenderness. Imagine your partner as a hurt child, how you would naturally reach out to comfort it. What you're experiencing now is the heart of compassion, a compassion that has the power to heal the sorrow in the world. Take another breath and continue to look deeper into your partner's eyes. Picture their happiest moments as a child, a moment of innocent joy, of learning, of growing. Picture them learning to run and play games. first time they saw the ocean or looked up at the stars. See the spirit of the child that's still in them, that they have a playfulness and a freedom that they can still experience. Think of the joy this person brings into the world, their capacity to feel joy and create joy. Feel your own joy as you become aware of the joy your partner feels. What you're experiencing is the human capacity to share joy. Value this shared joy as you would a gift that you've waited a long time to receive. Take another breath and release this joy. Look deeper into your partner's eyes. Become aware of your partner's eternal spirit. As you meet in this moment, look at your partner as if you're seeing the face of one who at another time and place was your parent, your mother or father, was your son or daughter, was your friend or enemy, was your wife or husband, was your student or teacher. Who is this person you look at? Not the body or the thoughts, but the consciousness behind those eyes. Who is looking? Who are you really? You have the capacity to love and the deep reserve of love that's in your partner. Recognize the ground of this person is love. Look as deeply as you can at this person. When you can see no deeper, when you've touched the bottom of existence, there you will find love. The ground of our existence is love. Now gently close your eyes. And when you're ready, open your eyes and thank your partner.